We're going to jump straight into our Seattle Seahawks news here. Again, a tough loss to the Carolina Panthers, a frustrating one, as the Seahawks fell 30-24. This was just a game where Seattle, again, could not stop the run. That sounds like a continuing trend, does it not? It just couldn't stop the run. The game started off poorly. The team was down by 3 possessions at one point in the first quarter. Geno threw 2 interceptions. It was his first 2 interception game since, I believe, 2018 was the word that I received on that. Just a tough one there. Seattle was able to bring it close, but was not able to get the stops necessary or convert offensively in those late stages to be able to win that game, and now drop to 7-6, and they are out of the playoff hunt currently. They're out of a playoff seed. They're currently in the hunt. And they're third in the division. No, pardon me. They are second in the division behind the 49ers. So tough one here. We'll look at the inactives really quick just so you get an idea of what the Seahawks were dealing with. The inactives list looked like this. Offensive lineman Jake Curran, running backs DJ Dallas and Kenneth Walker III were not able to go for this one, so the run game on the Seahawks side of things was heavily impacted. Wide receiver Penny Hart was inactive. D-line Shelby Harris, who was a surprise add to this list late. He was battling the flu and could not make that game, which is a big loss on that defensive line. And cornerbacks Artie Burns and Justin Coleman were inactive for that game. So we'll look now at offensive and defensive players of the game here before we get to general discussion. I went with Marquise Goodwin as my offensive player of the game here. 5 receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Led the Seahawks offense and was really the main bright spot on that offense. Geno had 3 touchdown passes, but the 2 interceptions really hinders him there. No rushing game really to speak of. Tyler Lockett would actually break a Seahawks record by recording 6 consecutive games with a touchdown reception. On the defensive side of the ball, I went with Bruce Irvin. Bruce had 6 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. Just generally filling up the stat sheet there is why I went with Bruce. So now let's get to the general discussion of this game. It's tough to imagine that this Seahawks team can really make any sort of playoff push, any sort of noise as the season progresses when they really can't stop the run at all. I mean, Carolina ran the ball 46 times for a grand total of 223 yards. So over the last 3 games, Seattle's opponents have been able to rush for about 700 rushing yards. That's just horrendous. That is terrible. This was more of the Seahawks defense that we saw earlier in the year, and we're wondering if it could get any better. There was that stretch of time where this defense looked great, looked far improved, and was help winning them games, and now we don't know where that really is. It's really tough. It's tough to look at this team and say have much confidence really in them, just considering how poor the rush defense has been. Not being able to get stops late in the game. You know, Seattle had several opportunities where the defense actually did get them stops. There was a 4th down stop, so turnover on downs. And then on the other side of things, the offensive side of the ball couldn't convert when it mattered. You know, there's too many punts late in that game, and it's just frustrating. You know, this Carolina team has seen some recent success as of late, but still this is a game that you should have won, all things considered. And again, to go back to the beginning of the season, obviously this is not a team that many of us expected to compete the way that they have over the course of this 2022 season. Now, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have won games like this. Even the Tampa game, you know, a bunch of these losses are just downright frustrating. And the road won't get much easier for them as they now go on to face the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. If we look back to week 2 when these teams faced off, Seattle just looked horrendous, couldn't get anything going. The only points really that they got were off of a blocked field goal that Tariq Woolen took all the way back for a touchdown, and the 49ers just able to have their way. Taking that into consideration now, this 49ers team Brock Purdy has stepped in for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's filling that situation well. They've added Christian McCaffrey. Unfortunately, Deebo Samuel went down with injury, so hoping he's all right. You never want to see injury. But the point being is that this 49ers offense has a ton of talent, let alone their defensive side of the ball, which is what gave the Seahawks fits in week 2. So this is a big game on Thursday night, and it's on short rest coming off of this loss where you couldn't stop the run. The 49ers can run the ball well with, obviously Christian McCaffrey, let alone who they've got on the offensive weaponry side of the ball. It's a big game. It's a big game, and it may help decide whether or not the Seahawks are going to the playoffs or not. So, and again, to go back to what I just talked about, this is not a team that a lot of people expected to be competitive necessarily throughout the course of the year. So I can't be mad at it. Your draft pick is still pretty damn good in the first round of things. But again, it's just frustrating when you see games like this that are in reach and you see the adjustments that need to be made and they're not being made. And these are adjustments that have been, pointed week after week, essentially. So, why that's not being fixed, why those adjustments aren't being made, why the tune-ups aren't being put into place, that's on the coaching staff. At the end of the day, that's on the coaching staff. Does some of that potentially fall on the personnel? Yes. But at the end of the day, the coaching staff's there to be able to put the players that you have on the roster in the best position to succeed. And that's not happening currently. So this is a big game on Thursday. Regardless, let's get to the rest of the news for our Seahawks here. In sort of terms of injuries, December 6th, safety Josh Jones was placed on IR with a hamstring injury. So that's safety position is already sort of reeling there with Jamal Adams going down earlier in the season. Ryan Neal is currently nursing some injuries, not only an arm one, but a knee injury. He was on the injury report this week with a knee injury. Now Josh Jones, essentially a third string guy, is out for on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. As a corresponding move, the team signed running back Wayne Gallman Jr. to the practice squad. As you can see on your screen here, December 10th, the team activated linebacker John Radigan from the physically unable to perform list and elevated running back Godwin Igwebuike and wide receiver Laquan Treadwell from the practice squad. On December 11th, it was announced that Ken Walker III and DJ Dallas were both out at running back for Seattle, and that Tony Jones Jr. was expected to get the start at running back with Travis Homer to back up. So if you look at that game, I know I talked about the offensive issues where Seattle really couldn't get the ball going to begin the game, and then in the end when you needed those points. Hard to blame much of that on the running game, just considering you're down to your effective third and fourth string guys. If you factor in Rashad Penny, Ken Walker, Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, Tony Jones Jr., you're effectively down to your fourth and fifth guys, which is not ideal. And Godwin Igwebuike did well on the kickoff side of things, so some people want him to be the kick returner going forward. We'll see about that. I know he was a guy that's kind of hovered around the practice squad, and I don't know if that warrants keeping him up, but nice to see someone take advantage of their opportunity when that arose. So we'll continue with the news here. Just a small note on injury before we go to team notes. In the third quarter, defensive tackle Al Woods left with a heel injury and was doubtful to return. So, again, an already poor rush defense for the Seahawks just loses another key contributor there. That rush defense is just bad, and I don't know when it will turn around. We get to team notes here as we look towards more of a positive sort of situation. As on December 6th, it was announced that wide receiver Tyler Lockett was named as the team's nominee for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award. Lockett is the first Seahawks player to be nominated for the Man of the Year award in consecutive seasons since the year 2000, and only one of 5 players in team history with multiple nominations. Both Russell Wilson and Steve Largent are the only 2 players in franchise history to win the award, which is considered one of the NFL's most prestigious honors. Lockett was also last year's winner of the Steve Largent Award in the franchise, given to the player who best exemplifies the spirit, dedication, and integrity of the Seahawks, as well as the 2021 Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award. And this year, he was voted as a team captain for the first time in his career. Lockett recently launched a college scholarship program in which he selected 7 students to receive $34,000 in scholarships for the 2021-22 academic year. Those students were awarded scholarships have since been admitted to Tennessee State University, Wichita State University, Northeastern Oklahoma A&M College, Oral Roberts University, and Tulsa Community College. Lockett also hosted 12 Tulsa public school students as part of a job shadow program, with students participating in a 3-day job shadow with Virginia Mason Franciscan Health, Keller Williams Realty, and the Seattle Seahawks. Those participating students were awarded $5,000 scholarships for a total of $60,000 in scholarships. So, just to generally wrap that up, you can tell just, if you're a follower of Tyler Lockett in any way, shape, or form, he's a good dude. I mean, just from the general story about how, I remember he was drafted primarily as a kick returner out of Kansas State, with the 69th pick in that draft. He was selected in, and just to see him sort of grow, he's a realtor now in the off season. I believe he recently got married in the offseason as well. He's been a fan favorite for many reasons, including the toe tap touchdowns that he's got over his time in the blue and green. So to see him nominated for this award makes a lot of sense, and certainly we'd like to see him win that award as well. So we'll look at some league news here to finalize our Seahawks segment. December 8th, the House released the Snyder Report. A committee found that Commanders owner Daniel Snyder permitted and participated in a toxic culture and obstructed congressional inquiry. So things continue to be poor there for the Washington Commanders owner Daniel Snyder, and you can just hope that sooner rather than later he is out as their owner. December 9th, the Saints were fined over $500,000 by the NFL. The league levied a huge fine against defensive end Cameron Jordan, coaches, and the team itself for allegedly faking an injury against the Buccaneers. On December 11th, Tom Brady could be back in 2023. Brady will consider all options when he hits free agency this offseason. So it seems we can't escape that man just yet. We'll look ahead towards record and standings here for our Seahawks, who, again, as I mentioned, have a tough game against the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks sit at a 7-6 record, second in the NFC West. They are currently in the hunt for a playoff spot in the NFC. Looking ahead, their next matchup is December 15th versus the San Francisco 49ers with a kickoff time of 5:15 Pacific time on Amazon Prime. That is Thursday Night Football. It's a big game. Not only are you looking to keep your playoff hopes alive, but, obviously divisional bragging rights and the fact that you got wiped with the team wiped the floor with you last time both met in week 2.